much to the honorable members of the council. This is an issue that may have the most long-term consequences on your term on the council. And it's not just about the golf course or the people who chose to live near railroad tracks under different circumstances. Negotiation is now progressing at a rapid speed, and it's been challenging for citizens to follow City Hall process. The railroad has been brought into the process. It's been a mystery to us. The notice of tonight's meeting was posted at about 7:15 last night. Other meetings we simply just didn't know about. We urge you to have a full, separate public hearing with ample notice at a specific time to all interested people who wish to speak on the issue, pro and con. We ask that BNSF not pressure the city and that no final action on any negotiation take place, and that until after the Army Corps of Engineers either holds or doesn't hold a hearing on the critical marsh issues that so profoundly affect our culture and our recreation and our floodplains. We ask that all council members have a forum to ask questions and be informed of such matters as what is the effect of Grand Crossing is the real bottleneck for BNSF. Canadian Pacific's traffic is also growing. How much slower would trains actually, how much more time at crossings would slower trains actually take? The calculations that we did wouldn't be sufficient enough to negate having slower speeds. It wouldn't tie up the crossings for that much more. What is the real number of BNSF trains today? The U.S. DOT crossing inventory as of today still lists 43 trains daily at Main Street, but it's 43 trains a day daily going back as far as 2004. We don't know the number of trains going today. What are the voluntary agreements that other communities have with railroads? Winona has a 30 to 35 mile per hour agreement through town with Canadian Pacific, and Red Wing is also said to have a no stopping and starting policy. Why can't such a voluntary agreement be achieved with La Crosse? Last week I sent to each of you a list of 10 items that are essential for any agreement with BNSF, and it's on your desk again. We like that BNSF promises thus far to help the city with some immediate expenses for the foreseeable future, but the offer neglects adjoining neighborhoods from north to south, as well as the community at large. The impact of turning a narrow city into a high-volume rail corridor is significant.
Thank you, Maureen. If you wouldn't mind wrapping it up.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Past performance is no indication of future returns, especially with the increased number of trains and the new cargo that they carry today. Thank you.
Thank you. Next I have Karen Ringstrom, 2545 Edgewood Place in La Crosse.
Thank you. I'm a member of C.A.R.S, Citizens Acting for Rail Safety, and I really appreciate this opportunity to address the entire council. This railroad issue is very complex. My focus has been to raise questions about the impact of railroad expansion on La Crosse homeowners, on annual tax revenues for the city of La Crosse, and the resulting impact on all La Crosse taxpayers. I worked with Carl Green at the UW Extension Office to examine the potential impact. My group identified a geographic area that we conservatively estimated to be the most vulnerable to rail expansion on an everyday basis, specifically noise, vibration, and crossing delays. This area includes homes within 850 feet of the tracks, the entire length of the city, plus homes trapped between the tracks and the bluffs. We call this the combined impact area. What our group learned from this is summarized in the report I sent you last week. This report, along with Carl Green's statistics and maps, are on your desks. But to summarize, about 18% of La Crosse homes lie in the combined impact area. These homes represent 9% of the city's tax base, or about $282 million. To make the threat to the tax base worse, 46% of all lacrosse homes above the median value lie in this area. So a drop in value of homes in the combined impact area would have a larger impact on city revenues than some other areas, and therefore a larger impact on all lacrosse taxpayers. So, what would be the impact on annual tax revenues if the value of properties affected by the railroad dropped 10 to 25%, depending on location? To answer that question, many assumptions have to be made, but the impact would be significant. And if you need a better answer than that, you'll have to ask Carl Green, who is sitting out there behind me somewhere. By the way, none of this addresses the impact on citizens and businesses located near Canadian Pacific Line, whose traffic is increasing also. La Crosse has unique features that make Burlington Northern's expansion a major threat to La Crosse remaining a safe and livable community. It turns a narrow city into a high-volume railroad corridor. In negotiations with Burlington Northern, we would ask our city's negotiating team to share these reports with Burlington Northern and ask them 2 questions. Do you recognize expansion in La Crosse is creating a problem? And how do you propose to prevent or compensate homeowners and the city for this loss? We are asking for 25-mile-an-hour speed limits to increase safety and reduce noise and vibration. Citizens want an end to the stopping and starting of trains in neighborhoods. We're asking for the berming of the wheels of trains, the use of the latest technology in construction and replacement of existing track, the construction of attractive sound walls where appropriate, and other means to address this issue, all to be paid for by BNSF. Thanks for listening. Carl Green was kind enough to be here tonight if you have any questions for either of us.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? And I apologize, I didn't ask if there were any questions for Maureen when she was up here. Okay, I see no questions. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Jerome.
Thank you, Your Honor. I was just wondering if we could get the economic number that Ms. Ringstone was talking about, either from you or from Carl Green.
The answer to the question, what would the impact be?
Yes, yes.
So
If you could just state your name for the record.
Carl Green, I'm with UW Extension, La Crosse County. So my interest in helping Karen was that 4 years ago I addressed this council in regards to the city's problematic housing and some of the issues with tax base. Karen asked me to run numbers in regards to this area that's impacted, or potentially this combined impact area. We figured it out to be about $282 million. I believe we made some assumptions in regards to how much typical growth would be happening in maybe 1 year throughout the rest of the city, how much then growth would be stagnated in this combined impact area. And if we saw, I think, a 3% growth in the entire city, except for the combined impact area, it actually then reflected about a drop to about a 1.2% growth. It's kind of hard to explain without maybe a diagram, but essentially it sort of acts as a weight. If growth in one of the highest growing neighborhoods isn't happening, then it has to be made up elsewhere. And what we see in the city is that there's not a lot of areas that are really starting to flourish and grow because of some of the housing conditions, and this is one of those areas that actually isn't right. It's a nice, solid housing development that has the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I will call next on Mr. John Cowan from 105.